Oh, how I wish the Warriors were in the playoffs. This is so weird, hosting show after show when the offseason hasn't even started yet. We're watching other teams playing. The Warriors belong in the postseason. It's bizarre. But I'm going to update you on today's show about the salary cap. I feel like every day I'm learning something new. So I'm going to throw some more information at you from that department. And we're going to talk about Klay Thompson today. Why is he a subject of discussion? Because he's the biggest free agent that the Warriors have to consider. And the great news, if you love Klay, is there's a very strong possibility he's going to come back. His numbers weren't bad this season, but by his standards, they were not great either. We're going to talk about him. And there was a player survey, which had some fascinating results. Let's get into it. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and exclusively live here on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network, and that's FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets. Guaranteed. That's $150. Hell of a promo. Win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Threads at Dog Wild. Super easy handle. Same handle for Instagram as well. And the program is on Threads at Locked On Warriors. That part is super easy. Good afternoon, MVP JB. Good afternoon, I hate Ewoks. Yeah, easily the worst part of Return of the Jedi. And I hate Ewoks starting off the show by writing, everyone is talking about KD coming back. I'm guessing you're referring to the Warriors. I really hope it's not true, by the way. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you, too. I haven't heard anything about KD coming back to the Warriors, unless you've heard from an actual legitimate source, and it's not just what people are gabbing about on various social media platforms. I haven't heard a thing. And in all honesty, man, KD coming back to the Warriors, I don't see how that happens. The math is incredibly complicated. You're not giving up the farm for him. And here's the reason why KD to the Warriors doesn't really excite me. If you're adding KD alone to what the Warriors have right now, even if you're not trading anything away, I don't think you're a favorite to win the title. I really don't. KD is 36 next year. KD's already shown that he can't carry a team on his own to a title. He needs to be a second fiddle. Those two championships the Warriors won where he was on the roster, yes, he won finals MVP, but without Steph, it's obvious Steph was the top dog. He's the alpha, even if he's an incredible professional who will cede control and power to KD to make him feel more comfortable. Yeah, I don't see that happening for a myriad of reasons. Chief among them, again, the math doesn't work. He turns 36 next year. His addition alone, even if you have this roster intact, does not guarantee a title. So again, my fantasy, which has a tinge of reality to it, it is realistic, is Giannis coming to the Warriors. Now that is and that's realistic largely because he's a player worth giving up the package for. The Warriors have the package. And if the Bucks lose game 6, I think that's tonight, to the Pacers, the Bucks are done. I do not see Giannis saying, let's run it back next year with Dame, who's already unhappy, another year older, with Chris Middleton, another year older, past his prime. Giannis is out of that equation if the Bucks let him. And I imagine they would. I can't see them trying to force Giannis to stay on that team, being disgruntled and unhappy. But I digress. So yeah, the KD thing, I would not count on that. That would shock me if the Warriors actually pursued him. I've seen chatter of KD going to, and Mike D, thank you. So that game 6 is actually tomorrow. Thank you for the update there. If you're correct, If there's anything with the KD chatter that I think has realism to it, would be him going to the Miami Heat, who are constantly in a win now mode. And I think they would be willing to give up some assets to pair KD with Jimmy Butler. I could also see them pursuing Dame Lillard, creating a little super team down there over in South Beach. But here on the Warrior side of things, I want to first say this, because the salary cap in the NBA is so damn complicated. And at least until recently, I was just sitting there just trusting and listening whatever, various credible reporters like Bobby Marks were saying. And now I'm kind of taking control of the information. And here's another thing I want to update folks on with the salary cap, because and this is my bad. I used the improper verbiage when I said on the last show that the Warriors are 27 million under the cap. What I meant to say was they're 27 million below the luxury tax, which is still a damn good position to be in for a couple of reasons. One, you're not paying all those penalties. So if you're in that weird little middle ground between being above the cap, which is approximately set at 141 million, and then being above the luxury tax, and that line is somewhere in, I believe, 171. If you're in that middle ground, you're not paying penalties, you're not paying luxury tax penalties, and you get access to 2 tiers. This is courtesy of Eric Pincus with Bleacher Report, and I should bring it back on again. He was on last summer. He is a true cap expert. And according to Eric Pincus, if your team is in that no man's land where you're above the cap, meaning you can't just throw money at free agents, but if you're below the luxury tax, which again is at approximately 171 million, the first tier of it before you start going into the aprons, you have 2 mid-level exceptions. One of them is good for approximately 12 million. The other one is good for approximately 4 million. You can split up those amounts. So that's basically close to $17 million the Warriors will still have to use for free agents that they did not have access to last year. That's a huge difference. So regardless, and this will lead into the Klay Thompson thing, because that 2-year, $48 million contract extension that the Warriors offered Klay Thompson last year, the math of it makes sense, because if Klay agrees to that, then the Warriors still stay below the luxury tax if Klay signs that deal, provided Chris Paul's team option does not get signed. And again, that would shock me. If Chris Paul comes back to the Warriors next year, that would also shock me, just because, again, he's owed $30 million. So either you trade him, but then again, by trading him, unless you get just a trade exemption back, if you trade him, which was what I would personally do, but again, it's not my money, you can get an asset back, you can get value back, you're not losing him for nothing. But the reality of it is, you're in all likelihood, Chris Paul is gone. At the same time, in all likelihood, if Klay Thompson doesn't get too greedy in terms of what he wants for his next deal, he's almost certainly going to come back to the Warriors. That 2-year, $48 million deal, again, it makes sense, the amounts now, because you give him that contract, you let Chris Paul walk, you're still below the luxury tax, meaning you can offer those mid-level exception contracts. And so that's what's going on there. And I want to talk about Klay Thompson today, because he's an unrestricted free agent, and I want to do a quick season review. Kenneth Palmer in the chat real quick writes, "Cy, what can be done about improving the assistant coach situation? That is in Steve Kerr's hands. I pray that Steve Kerr does something about that, because he needs help. He needs different perspectives. He needs to get challenged. It is an old adage that rings true. Great leaders bring in people below them who are smarter than them. I'm not seeing that kind of action from Steve Kerr lately. I feel like he's all about surrounding himself with yes men and not necessarily the best men. And I'm not cool with that at all. That is not a sign of good leadership. That is a sign of just the person at the top just trying to hold power and being happy in the process, regardless of how things are shaking out around him. So in my humble opinion, that coaching staff needs to improve. Now, KM writes, and again, this is lunacy, "It's time to trade Kuminga with some picks and go get yourself a legit star in the Bay. Moody too, please."
That's ignorant.
That's incredibly ignorant.
It's ignorant. You're being ignorant.
You hear Michael Jackson, KM from South Park?
That's ignorant.
Very ignorant. You want to know why? Because the only star out there who would be available and worth giving those two players up for is Giannis. Anybody out there who talks about trading Kuminga or Moody for that matter, because Moody's going to be a baller too. I told you Kuminga is going to be a player. For those who listen to me, thank you for having some faith in your boy. If you're still not listening to me, I know what the hell I'm talking about. Moody can also play. But if you're going to trade Kuminga, if you're going to trade Moody, throw some goddamn names. KM, mention some names. If you're going to be that disrespectful to the Warriors' future stars by throwing them out there as trade bait, who are you trading them for? All right? Throw some names out there. Who's MJ, Bruce Morrow? Who are you referring to? Michael Jordan? I don't know who you're referring to. Oh, Michael Jackson. I'm not doing my MJ dirty. It's just a soundbite. MJ's calling other people out. So yeah, Milk D. Yes, I've already said that on this show. There are a few superstars out there that I would trade Kuminga for, and Moody. Giannis being one of them. There's only a few, but Giannis is the only even remotely realistic one in terms of the other team actually potentially considering it. Because Joel Embiid would be another name, for example, that I'd sit back and go, "Wow, yeah, okay, I'll consider that." But the Sixers are not trading Embiid. So yeah, come at me with some names, please, and we'll open. I'll hear you out, but don't just say trade them. I mean, there is no one out there worth it, is what I'm trying to say. If you're going to give away the future, you have to bring back something that's going to give you a title now. There's no one else out there that's worth it. So when we come back, let's talk about. Oh, and Avatrax asks, why would Milwaukee do that? Because at the end of the season, if they lose to the Pacers as expected, they're old. Giannis has no supporting cast around him. And they could either keep an unhappy Giannis while dealing with a roster that does not give him flexibility to improve, or you trade Giannis now and start rebuilding. It's not complicated. Abioff Mishra writes, Kuminga for Pascal Siakam. First of all, Siakam's going to sign an extension with the Pacers. If Pascal Siakam expressed real interest in the Warriors at the trade deadline, the Warriors might have pulled the trigger on that. But reports came out that said Siakam looked at the Warriors and was like, hell no. So, and I wouldn't make that trade anyway. Siakam turns 30 next year if he's not 30 already. Now, MVP JB writes, get DeMar DeRozan. Intriguing free agent, but the Warriors don't have the space for that. Again, Pascal Siakam, look at the Pacers. They can't even put away a Bucks team that's missing Dame Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo, but you want to trade for Pascal Siakam and give away the future? Make some sense, folks. Come on. What's up, Sports Talk? All right, so when we come back, let's talk about Klay. And I want to get to this player survey, which had some incredible results. After we give some love to our sponsors for this afternoon. Warm week here in the Bay Area. And first up on the sponsors is DoorDash. Look, Mother's Day is around the corner. Buying a gift for Mother's Day is always challenging. You obviously got to do it for your mom. And this is where DoorDash comes into play, because whatever you buy, and especially with the promo they got going on, where we're talking about flowers, you're talking about candy, DoorDash is an excellent gift idea for your Mother's Day and for your mom. Make mom smile. Start Mother's Day with flowers. Surprise her with gifts from the brands she loves. Deliver the very same day with DoorDash. I mean, our moms are a gift, so give her the best this Mother's Day. Get gifts as thoughtful as she is with DoorDash. Select from hundreds of expertly crafted bouquets to the best of tech to self-care essentials and more, delivered right to her door. Or if mom has a sweet tooth, maybe you want to buy her some candy. Maybe you want to get her a gift card if she's a tech enthusiast, some beauty products, whatever it is, DoorDash can help you. Get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place and get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail order now with the code Locked On NBA. That's Locked On NBA. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. Man, I wish it was legal here in California. I really do. Where's the overlay? But alas, if you live in a place where it's legal, I envy you. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. And I always advise, when FanDuel is running this promo, place that $5 bet on a straight bet on a heavy favorite so you can cash in with that $150. That's $150 you can spend on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day like I do? Just have the TV on 24/7. Do you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting that's going on there? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let's break down Klay Thompson this year real fast. Just a review of how he did. We all know that the first half of the season was not great for Klay. First of all, his overall minutes. He averaged 29, or his overall stats. He averaged 29.7 minutes per game. I'm gonna look up his career numbers real fast too. I should pull that up in front of me. Klay's career average in terms of minutes, 32.6. So that 29.7 was the third lowest of his career behind his rookie season and 2021-2022 when he came back from those gruesome Achilles and knee injuries. Averaged 17.9 points per game, third lowest of his career behind his first two seasons. His rookie year, he averaged 12.5 points per game. His second year, 16.6. Again, those aren't bad numbers. But it's and just real fast, free throw percentage was phenomenal, 92.7%. It's unfortunate he doesn't get that many free throw attempts per game. He averages 1.8. That would be a part of his game that if he started attacking a lot more, and actually late in the season, he was showing that he could do that. And I hope that's a part of his game he works on this offseason, because he's a phenomenal shooter, goes without saying. Second greatest ever, in my humble opinion, after Stephen Curry, his Flash brother teammate. But the three-point shooting by his standards were low, 38.7% on the year. By most human being standards, that's fantastic. But by Klay Thompson's standards, considering he's a career 41.3% three-point shooter, not good for him. And that's a compliment to Klay because, again, by his standards, you expect more. That 38.7% shooting from deep, the second lowest of his career. 2021-2022 was the lowest by 0.2 percentage points. He shot 38.5% that season, but he also averaged 20.4 points per game that season, 17.9 this year. Now, the splits are what I want to quickly just highlight before we move on, because, again, for him, it was a tale of two halves. Similar to Andrew Wiggins, those two just synonymous in so many regards. And again, as I've touched on this show, in terms of net rating, those two are a disaster. So whatever the Warriors do moving forward, if you keep Wiggins and you add Klay back, stop playing them together. And the biggest reason why it doesn't work anymore is because of Klay's regression defensively. He can't guard fast players anymore. He can't guard point guards. He can't guard shooting guards. Defensively, he's now a 3 and sometimes a 4, which is Steve Kerr sometimes played him as a power forward defensively. And so he's become redundant with Wiggins. And those two together, it's a disaster now. You got to move on. All right. Steve Kerr, let it go. Move on. These two players, they're still good. They're not elite. And when they play together, they create such a defensive liability. It doesn't work. So I hope we don't see more of those two playing together. I mean, Kerr was at times making attempts to split their minutes up, but not always. And at the end of the season, we saw Klay starting again, even though he played better off the bench. Now, his splits pre-All-Star, post-All-Star, those are the two numbers I want to focus on because his improvement came this season primarily starting in January when all of a sudden his three-point shooting went up to 40.5% in that month. But look at the comps between his pre and post All-Star numbers. Before the All-Star game, he shot 37.3% from 3. After the All-Star game, that number went up to 41.2%. He averaged 17.3 points per game pre-All-Star, post-All-Star 18.9. His field goal percentage, I didn't mention that for this year. He shot on the season 43.2% from the field. Good, not great. But when you look at it from pre and post All-Star, before the All-Star break, he shot 42.1% from the field. That number went up to 45.4 after the All-Star break. Klay Thompson is a career 45.3% field goal percentage shooter. So again, I think he's going to come back. He wants to come back. Here was Klay real fast. Let's hear sound from him. This was an infamous soundbite, which I don't think made him look good. This was at the exit interviews when Klay Thompson was asked about the future for himself and the Golden State Warriors. And here's what Klay had to say.
Just kind of, I guess, get a bigger question out of the way earlier. Just how do you view your future with the Warriors heading into this offseason that feels obviously pretty unknown?
We don't want to talk about the season first. You want to talk about the future? There was a lot of games played, man. That was a pretty big accomplishment. What's up with y'all not wanting to live in the present, bro? It's ridiculous. Anyways, what was your question?
About the future. I mean, obviously, it's a pretty major topic. I mean, you're a franchise legend here who is an unrestricted free agent and certainly at this point has an unknown future here. I mean, how confident are you that you'll be back?
To be honest, I really haven't given it much thought because what I previously just said about the season we had and how much commitment it takes to play the games we did and give it our all. So I really haven't thought about that deep in the future because I still need to process the year we had, and it was one filled with ups and downs, but ultimately I personally and our team did everything we could to try and, win as many games as we possibly could.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Klay, if he wants to talk about the present, I first of all, it's disappointing, at least to me, seeing the way Klay is handling a regression in his playing career. He berated a reporter in the locker room this season. That was not well reported, but it's true, and it's very unfortunate. I mean, these individuals are just trying to do their jobs, and he just freaked out. He's never really liked the media that much in general, but again, he will probably come back. But if you want to focus on the present, if I was in that press conference room and he gave me that kind of answer, I would have immediately responded with, "Okay, let's talk about the present. What happened in that recent game against the Kings when he went 0 for 10 from the field? 0 for 10, right? It was an 0 for. That's all I know. And and that's where the consistency just is not there anymore. And it's unfortunate. So 2 years, $48 million. That's a lot of money. $24 million a year. And that's what he turned down last season. Yes, that's the amount that's to him again. Sorry about that. Oh my God, what is going on here? Oh, I'm sorry about the noise. This is what happens sometimes when you have a live broadcast. This was all just to figure out Klay Thompson. He was 0 for 10, 0 for 6 from deep. That's all I was trying to do there. Okay. The point is, if we want to talk about the present Klay, is that really what you want to touch on? 0 for 10. And that's where Steve Kerr needs to. I still don't understand why Kerr just left Klay in that game as much as he did. He's not the same dude, but I see hope for Klay. I wouldn't mind Klay coming back because never mind the nostalgic stuff. Again, I don't touch on nostalgia on this program. It's all about the present. It's all about the future. And if there's any benefit to my life growing up where I witnessed the 49ers dynasty, one of the greatest dynasties in sports ever, where they sustained it for 18 years, that experience taught me you can't be nostalgic if you want to continue success. You have to cut cords when a player starts to regress. And Steve Kerr does not subscribe to that, clearly, because Klay Thompson should not have played over 30 minutes in that Kings game. But again, he's probably going to come back. The question is how much. And if you're curious why 2 years, $48 million was the offer last year, it's probably going to be the offer again this offseason. It's because even if Klay signs that deal, the Warriors will still stay below the luxury tax. And then you can offer those mid-level exceptions. And that's huge. So we'll see how that goes. I hate Ewoks is asking for a nostalgia episode. Yeah, why not? Absolutely. Look, this job becomes very challenging in a moment like this where you have to actually come up with topics to discuss. We'll totally do some nostalgia on this program. I promise you that. Patrick Singh says the Warriors should offer Klay $45 million for 2 years. Yeah, it'd be a $3 million yes than what was offered a year ago. Yeah, the point is he'll probably get an offer over $20 million a year, which some people might think is high. Some people might think is low. It's all opinions in this business. But if they want to stay under that luxury tax, that's the amount that we're looking at. Let's pay some bills one last time, and then I'm going to read some survey results to you. Or maybe I should save that for... Maybe I could do 2 shows today. I don't know. Let's pay some bills. And our final sponsor for today's day is Monopoly Go, the super fun game. It's always a sign that summer's here when you start seeing promos for Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying, right? Flag on the play. You already talked about that. We've already been mentioning Monopoly Go since they started sponsoring this program. But there's just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. Unique stickers. You can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes. Cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day, constantly changing tournaments and challenges. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. For the everydayers, and this is why I love doing live shows, and this is why I love the audience of this program, even the haters out there, as long as you're not making it personal or going, name calling, I respect you as well. But in this case, for the next show, IGIT _ writes, the Warriors can still win another championship if they get the right player. Now, the immediate response to that in the chat, KM says, hell no. Mitchell Inez says, no, they can't. Green Zorro says, no way. Mitchell Inez writes, this team is an 8th seed at best next year and will get eliminated in the first round. On the next episode, I'm actually optimistic about the Warriors next year. I'm going to discuss why there's a shot. I really do. I'm not blowing smoke. I'm not busting out a gimmick here. I really genuinely believe things are much better than they seem for the Warriors, and they will, if the right moves are made, be title contenders next year. We'll talk about that on the next episode. And then Conga, you're onto something though. Nostalgia dynasty, the ruin of companies and sports teams. You're absolutely right. You got to move on. You got to keep churning that wheel. And we'll see if the Warriors do that. It's a huge reason why Bob Myers left. That's a true story, is because he wanted to migrate. He wanted to transition, and he was met with a lot of resistance for that. Let's talk about this, the Athletics NBA player survey while we have a few moments left here. And the Athletic, I think they do this annually, and the results are fascinating because you're getting a player perspective in this, right? So let's go through it real fast. The players were asked, who's the greatest player of all time? Now, if you're an everydayer on this program, you've heard me say repeatedly, time and time and again, that it's Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is the GOAT. It's not even up for discussion in my mind, simply because there is one goal in sports, especially in professional sports, and that is winning. That's it. So when you're talking about a GOAT discussion and you're comparing Jordan, and first of all, and the NBA is unique in these discussions in that there's only 5 players in each team, all right? It's not like football where you have 22 on the field, baseball 25. Hockey is much more comparable, but so, if you want to make the argument that Wayne Gretzky is the GOAT, yeah, that's a very valid argument. But when it comes to basketball, and I heard this, to me, the best argument still in terms of what the difference is between Jordan and LeBron, the difference between the two can constitute its own. Okay, let me rephrase this. If you calculated the difference between Jordan and LeBron, that difference, if an individual player accomplished that, would be a Hall of Fame career, meaning Jordan has 6 finals MVPs. LeBron has 4. 2 finals MVPs separate those 2 players. You're talking about scoring titles. Jordan has 8 more. You're talking about individual MVPs. I think Jordan has 1 more. The Defensive Player of the Year award. When you look at what separates those 2 players, that difference is a Hall of Fame career in and of itself. And again, 6 titles, 6 finals MVPs. And here's the thing about the Jordan versus LeBron debate, and I'll move on after this. A lot of what made Jordan the GOAT, for me, and I think a lot of people who watched him playing growing up would agree with this sentiment. Any of us who say he's the GOAT, who grew up watching him, we say that largely because of the experience of watching Jordan play. What I mean by that is, if I wasn't there watching that 98 final series where Jordan hit that last shot and everyone watching knew that was it, at least his time with the Bulls was over. If you watched him win his first title against the Lakers over Magic, watching it, experiencing it, and I was very lucky to watch him live once when he played the Warriors, and I think he put up 41 in that game, just easily took care of business. Seeing it in person, experiencing it, adds to the gravitas, adds to the greatness of Michael Jordan. And the reason why I say this is because there's a lot of folks out there, I'd say the vast majority, and in this survey, for example, Jordan got 45.9% of the vote. LeBron got 42.1%. I would venture to guess that the vast majority of that 42.1% never watched Jordan play. Yet all of us who did watch Jordan play, we've all also watched LeBron James play. And I'm sorry, they're not the same. Michael Jordan would slit someone's throat, probably literally, to win a title. LeBron James just does not match that killer instinct. I also look at the difference between their physique, meaning if Michael Jordan was 2 inches taller and 50 pounds heavier, would he be that much better than LeBron? Hell yeah. That's a huge reason why I allude to Stephen Curry's greatness. The dude is not even 6'3". Imagine if he was 6'6". Oh my God. So so my point is Jordan's clearly the GOAT. And LeBron's a great player. And I have no disrespect towards him. If you want to make the argument that LeBron's the greatest all-around player, I think you have an argument because of his rebounding skills. He is an incredible facilitator. Jordan was too. And Milk D, you're absolutely right. LeBron is an athletic freak, but Jordan was a killer. And I'll end the discussion here by saying this. If your life was on the line and it depended on one NBA game led by a team featuring either Michael Jordan or LeBron James, meaning your life is on the line and that team led by that player has to win the game for you to survive, I'm going Jordan 100 out of 100 times. Again, Jordan would slit someone's throat to hoist the Larry O'Brien trophy. I don't think you could say the same about LeBron James. I think it's really unfortunate. A lot of people who say LeBron's a GOAT are old enough to remember Jordan in those Wizards years. That's a shame because Jordan with the Wizards was not at all who he was with the Bulls. And that Wizards team was god-awful. My God. I mean, when we talk about the worst teams ever, that Wizards team, those 2 years that Jordan was on those, yeah, worst ever. Easily. But Mike D, you're absolutely right. Longevity, of course, LeBron wins that argument all day, every day. But Mohammed Benson, Jordan was a better defender. Hence, he has a Defensive Player of the Year award. Rodney Alvarez, great point as well. Jordan never flopped. No, you're absolutely right about that. We never saw those kinds of antics of him arguing with refs, like the whininess. Like we never saw any of that with Jordan. Milk D says, if I was building a roster, first pick could be LeBron, though Jordan is it for me. No, I would go Jordan first pick all day, every day. But, and again, this is no disrespect to LeBron, but those two titles, yes, when all is said and done, at the very core of this argument, professional sports, let alone all sports, but especially professional sports, there's just one goal, and that's winning. It's a competition. That's what this is. So those 6 titles, 6 finals MVPs. Yes, I'm sorry. That is the difference. The 9 scoring titles versus 1 for LeBron? Does he even have one? That makes a difference. Scoring is what leads you to winning. It's probably the most important stats. So I digress. I do not have enough time to get to the rest of the survey. But again, I'll get to the rest of the survey on the next show, where now I have a topic, thanks to the incredible chat, why the Warriors could still be a title contender next year. I do believe it. I really do. I'm going to explain why on the next episode. But for now, thank you everyone for tuning in as always. And hope you're enjoying the NBA playoffs. These are phenomenal games. And keep your eye out because there are going to be implications for the rest of the NBA with these games, meaning Bucks Pacers tomorrow. Thank you to the audience again for that. If the Pacers win game 6, Giannis could be out. And if Giannis is out, I'm telling you, I really believe this. I'm not blowing smoke. I'm not making things up here. I'm not saying it just to say it. The Warriors have the best trade package in the NBA for Giannis Antetokounmpo. They do, honest to God. So be optimistic. Go Pacers. We'll be back at this soon. My apologies to the network for running late today. And I hope everyone's having a great day out there. Hope everyone's doing okay. We'll be back at this very soon. Bye.